So, what went wrong with Tottenham? Spurs put up a confusing performance in this home loss versus Liverpool, their second consecutive league defeat following the loss to Nottingham Forest in the previous round. Fraught with poor communication, wasteful possession, and reckless tackles, this fixture had few positives, which were limited mostly to good counter-attacks. For Liverpool, however, this was a significant away victory, as the Reds came away from North London with a 2-1 win. They lined up once again in Slott's preferred 4-2-3-1 formation. On paper, it appeared rigid and structured, but in practice, it is much more fluid. As has been a recurring theme this season, the shape's fluidity was particularly evident in the attacking phase. Players constantly rotated positions, interchanged roles, and adapted to the spaces available, making Liverpool difficult to track and defend against. During Liverpool's attacking sequences, both Szoboszlai and Florian Wirtz regularly drifted away from the central areas and moved wide towards the touchlines. This movement served multiple purposes. Firstly, it stretched Tottenham's defensive block horizontally, forcing their wide midfielders to make difficult decisions about whether to follow or hold their line. Secondly, by vacating the half spaces, Szoboszlai and Wirtz created pockets of space for teammates to exploit, whether that be Curtis Jones stepping up or a fullback underlapping. Out of position, however, their responsibilities shifted dramatically. Rather than pressing high or staying wide, Szoboszlai and Wirtz tugged in centrally, positioning themselves close to Tottenham's double pivot. Their task was clear: deny Spurs any clean progression through the center of the pitch. By doing so, Liverpool effectively shut down Spurs' most direct passing routes and forced them to play around the block rather than through it. On the opposite side, Thomas Frank opted for a 4-4-2 setup, clearly prioritizing compactness and transitional threat. The shape reflected Spurs' intent to absorb pressure and strike quickly once possession was regained. When Spurs had the ball, Xavi Simons was instructed to drop deeper at times, effectively creating an extra man in midfield. This numerical overload was meant to draw Liverpool players inwards and in turn open up space further up the pitch for Kolo Muani. With more room to operate, Muani could make aggressive runs in behind or position himself to receive direct passes between the lines. From there, Spurs aimed to either play early balls out wide or find Muani quickly before Liverpool could organize. However, with Liverpool enjoying long spells of possession, Spurs were often forced into a defensive posture. They frequently dropped into their 4-4-2 mid-block, sitting deep and waiting patiently for opportunities to recover the ball and launch counter-attacks. This approach has been a major point of criticism for Spurs this season. Fans and pundits alike have questioned their tendency to retreat and concede territory rather than pressing higher up the pitch when out of possession. That said, it would be unfair to suggest Spurs were entirely passive. There were moments, and some very effective ones, where their pressing was well-timed and aggressive. One such instance came early in the game, when a strong press from Muani disrupted Liverpool's build-up, allowing Kudus to step in and recover the ball out wide. This sequence resulted in a clear chance for Muani as early as the 5th minute. Recognizing the threat, Liverpool adjusted their build-up structure. The centre-backs began splitting wider towards the flanks, stretching Spurs' first line of pressure. At the same time, Curtis Jones dropped slightly deeper, offering an additional passing option and helping Liverpool progress the ball more cleanly. This adjustment reduced the risk of turnovers in dangerous areas. Spurs had a similar solution of their own, with Bentancur dropping deeper to support build-up and relieve pressure in midfield. Spurs were at their most effective when attacking Liverpool in transition. On the counter-attack, their pace and directness caused genuine problems. In settled possession, however, their play was far less convincing. Rather than consistently breaking lines with incisive passes, Spurs relied heavily on crosses from wide areas. Too often, these deliveries were either easily defended or failed to find a target, resulting in attacks that ended up without a clear end product. Compounding these issues were repeated moments of miscommunication, particularly along the wings. These errors highlighted a lack of cohesion and confidence when Spurs attempted to build sustained attacks. Their most promising moments came when they bypassed Liverpool's structure altogether. This came when they played long passes or switched the play quickly from one side to the other. But this dynamic changed when, in the 30th minute, a reckless and unnecessary challenge from behind saw Xavi Simons being shown a red card. It was a frustrating moment, especially given how lively and involved he had looked in the opening exchanges. While the red card undeniably tilted the balance of the match in Liverpool's favour, it did not completely settle the contest. Spurs continued to pose a threat on the counter, creating several dangerous situations, including a couple of notable chances just before halftime. Spurs also struggled badly with ball retention. A series of unforced errors in possession meant they frequently handed the ball back to Liverpool, preventing any sustained pressure. As a result, they often looked disjointed and uncomfortable when trying to construct attacks. Still, credit must be given for their threat on the counter. Liverpool's substitution of Isak for Bradley altered the dynamic up front. With the numerical advantage firmly in their favour, Liverpool's attacking players were afforded even greater freedom, while Curtis Jones increasingly positioned himself behind Van Dijk and Konate during build-up or pushed forward into advanced areas. From these positions, Jones was able to attempt multiple line-breaking passes, an area where he excels. No Premier League player boasts a higher pass completion rate under pressure this season, and his performance here was a clear example of that quality. He also frequently drifted into the left half space to combine with Wirtz, creating overloads and opening passing lanes. The decisive moment came in the 56th minute. A perfectly weighted through ball from Florian Wirtz found Isak making a diagonal run on the blind side of Romero. The move ended with Isak finishing clinically, though unfortunately he sustained an injury in the process and had to be substituted. Importantly, the opportunity stemmed from a poor pass by Romero himself. While widely regarded as one of the Premier League's top defenders, he completely lost his composure in this match. Spurs already hold the unenviable record for the most yellow cards in the league this season, and the double red today compounded their disciplinary issues. Liverpool's second goal followed shortly after, coming from Ekitike header assisted by Frimpong, who had replaced the injured Isak. It was a moment that effectively punished Spurs for not scoring their earlier chances. Thomas Frank, who has rightly earned praise for his inventive set-piece routines, saw the immediate payoff when Richarlison, who had just been substituted in, promptly got on the score sheet from a corner. The final 10 minutes of the match were chaotic and scrappy. Spurs pushed desperately to end the game on a high, throwing bodies forward and creating one final opportunity for Richarlison. In the end, it was an underwhelming overall performance from Spurs. Pedro Porro and Bentancur were the standout performers, but beyond that, positives were hard to come by. The victory lifts Liverpool up to 5th in the Premier League table, reinforcing the sense of momentum building under Arne slot. For Spurs, however, it marked the second straight defeat and raised further questions about consistency. There are undoubtedly encouraging signs in Thomas Frank's work. Narrow and compact defensive structures, blistering counter-attacking football, and genuinely inventive set-piece routines. But football is ultimately consequentialist, and the results simply are not there yet. Spurs have won just one of their 7 home games this season, and while the tactical ideas are evident, there remains significant room for improvement before performances begin to consistently translate into points.